we've talked a little bit about the browser object model and the document object model. So kind of refresh your memory about how that works. We have the window, and remember we looked at things like history. We looked at screen, where we could determine the screen size. We looked at location, and then what we should be really familiar with is the document, which leads us into the document object model. And we've worked extensively with that in this chapter. So for today's assignment, we're going to work a little bit with the window object and how we can use the window object to open and close other windows. So if you remember from way back in the day, oh no, like 12 years ago, there was a funny little thing that occurred called a Rickroll. And if you clicked on a site, it would take you and it would play the Never Gonna Give You Up song. So that's what we're going to do with this. We're going to have this website. When we click this button, we'll have Rickroll GIF pop up, and then we're going to do some different things with it. So take some time right now to go and download your files and make sure that you have in code index.html and rickroll.html, and we'll be right back. So take a few minutes to familiarize yourself with what we have in this document. I've just added some simple CSS styling. We have obviously a scam here that the Internal Revenue has an important message about your taxes. This is a scam. We are scamming people. No, it's just a joke. No big deal. Notice that we have a button here with the ID button. And then we have in our script section, ignore this for right now. We've got it commented out. This is some code that's going to change the place of our window and where our window appears. Okay, so we have to find some way to reference this object. And since it has an ID, the best way would be document.getElementById. So let's create a variable called buttonL. And using document.getElementById, we are going to reference the ID button. Then let's create a new function. And at any time in this, if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause it and come back to the video. Next, we'll have a function. We're going to call it Rickrolled. And inside this function, we are going to address the window and cause it to open the rickroll.html document that's also in our folder. So to do this, we need the object window. We're going to use the open method. Open. And then we have a couple of arguments we're going to put in here. We are going to tell it what page we want to open. So rickroll.html. We're going to tell it to open in a new page. So we're going to do _blank. And we're going to set the height and width. And notice this is a little different than the way we've done things in the past. So just note to double check this when you're typing in case you have any errors. And see, I had an error. Okay, once we call this function, that should work. So let's go down here and create an event listener to listen for that button being clicked. So the object that the event is taking place on is the button, this button here. We have referenced this button in our JavaScript here. So all we have to do is reference that object, button.l.addEventListener. And in this case, when it is clicked, remember that's the event, comma, the function name, in this case it's Rickrolled, and then the false. Is it all coming back to you now? Okay, so now let's refresh this page, and when we click here, we should get a pop-up window. So that's how you make pop-up ads. Isn't it exciting? Okay, so we have the pop-up, but notice that it popped up in the upper left-hand corner. So we can use the window screen object to then change the position in which this pop-up appears. So let's go back to our code, and if you'll notice, we need to comment out this code. So instead of like going line by line or typing a lot of stuff, there's a keyboard shortcut. Shift-Alt-A is a toggle function that will comment your code multi-line. So Shift-Alt-A, and notice that it all went comment, and if I Shift-Alt, well, if I wouldn't have messed up, if I Shift-Alt-A again, then it returns back to normal code. So let's take this code from the function down to our event listener. We still want to leave this because we're going to reference this button L in our event listener for the Rickroll trolled. So let's take these lines of code and we'll do a Shift-Alt-A. And then let's select these other lines of code that I already had commented out, and we'll do a Shift-Alt-A on those, and that will take the comment off. So notice kind of what this does. We have set a variable of width and height, and then we have divided those by 2, basically to find the center point of our window. And then using concatenation added all those up together so that when option, this variable when object eventually will tell this new pop-up window to appear in the middle of the screen. Now, it's not important that you know this. All that we are learning today is working with the window object. That's the goal of this project. We're just playing around with different things that we can do with different objects. So now if we run this again, refresh your window and click here, then our Rickroll appears in the center of our screen. And you could do that for a variety of different things. I mean, you could really tinker with this, and you could have like several Rickrolls pop up at one time if you wanted to. What I do is have this link to be able to close this window. Now this window is a different file than our index.html. This is a page called rickroll.html, and if you'll notice, very simple styling, and then I just have the image of the Rickroll GIF, and then we have an ID called close ID, and then the text close this window. So all that we want to do in our script is to be able to, when this text is clicked, have the window close. Simple enough, right? Okay, so we need to be able to access this text in some way. It is an H4 with an ID of close ID. So let's try that. Let's do var close text. And to get to it, we have a document.getElement by ID. The name of the ID, close ID. And let's create a function called close when. Inside this function, very simple code, window.close. Not hard at all, right? So that's accessing the window object and applying the close method, which just closes the window. So let's execute this function with an event listener whenever close text object is referenced. So close text with the event listener, when it is clicked, we want the function close when to execute. All right, so let's see if this works. Save, refresh, and when we click here, there's our lovely Rickroll, haha. And if we click close this window, the window closes. Yay! You just worked with the window object. Kudos.